Defense. What is even defense mean in basketball? The Sixers survive a shootout against those pesky Indiana Pacers last night. Geno Smith, Carr get huge contracts. What's that mean for Jalen Hurts? And free agency rumors running all over the place. Guys, it's a no for a lot of these guys for the Eagles. Just realize that. It's a no. Trending in the AM starts in 30 seconds.
Holding, gets around in front. Joel Embiid,
and Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. Make sure you do me that favor. Head over to the DSM Media YouTube page. Hit the like button, the subscribe button. Turn the notifications on. It's the best place to drop your comments, thoughts, questions on today's topics to get the most interactive with the show as we talk Eagles, Sixers. Sixers in a shootout, we're going to call it. I guess that's the best way to describe it. A pesky Pacers team. NFL free agency news all over the place with some quarterbacks getting some big-ish deals, but just kind of setting the market on what's going to happen. We got lots to talk about today, so let's get interactive. And I don't use my soundboard enough, so I got to ask you guys.
Are you ready?
Yeah, it's so cheesy, isn't it? Anyway. Let's get started here. Last night, Sixers. This is not an overtime or a double overtime score or anything like that. Sixers beat the Pacers 147-143. Tyrese Halliburton breaks the spread as time expires, knocking down a three with 0.1 seconds left. That's 6.5-point line. If you bet it, Halliburton said, screw you, and changed those plans at the buzzer last night. I hate when that happens. But what's the point of taking that shot there other than to bust a spread right there? I did not bet the game last night, but, man, I know a lot of people did, and, man, that had to be brutal. Brutal. Anyway, last night's game, lots to get into from it because it was an entertaining game. There's a lot that people want to overreact to in last night's game. But let's just go quarter by quarter. After quarter one, 39-38 were the points scored between the Pacers and the Sixers. Both teams scored 40 in the second quarter, 36 and 35 in the third quarter. Then the fourth quarter, it got to a defensive battle at 33-29. There was a lot of offense. It looked like the baskets were as wide as, I don't know, wide. And there was no defense being played last night. But everybody was making their shots. Everybody was doing what they do. I say it all the time. The Pacers, they're a pesky team. And they're going to be really, really good team down the line. They're one of those teams that the play-in playoff series is really important to get them some playoff experience. You saw it towards the end last night's game. The Pacers just, couldn't handle the experience and overall team of the Sixers as it got to crunch time last night. Rick Carlisle, great coach. Tyrese Halliburton, he's a guy that I've wanted on the Sixers since he came into the league. I like the guy. The guy's got a lot of talent and is going to be a damn good player one day in this NBA. I mean, he's already an all-star in this league, but I mean, he's going to be one of those max elite stars one day, I feel. But the Sixers were able to pull it out and get the W in this high-scoring affair last night. And a team that wants to be so defensive-minded came out last night and played no defense. Joel Embiid had a big game. James Harden, obviously the first time in NBA history that teammates have had. So Joel Embiid had over 40 points and James Harden had 20 assists. It's the second time that teammates have had 40 points and 20 assists in a game. And it's the second time this year. And it's the first time that's ever happened in NBA history that two teammates did that twice or more in 1 year. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happened again. The connection there between those guys on the pick and roll and on the offensive side, it's slowly but surely rounding into an unstoppable duo. But no defense was being played last night. So I'm not going to overreact to it. The Sixers got a big win, and it was a good win. I mean, it was back and forth, and on the road in Indiana, got another game. You got to get right on a plane, head to Minnesota to play tonight in Minnesota, another pesky team. It was an easy way. Tobias Harris, PJ Tucker out last night, possibly that they play tonight, and pesky team like that, and the Pacers kept just hanging on. Every time the Sixers would take a lead, the Pacers would go back up 3. Every time the Sixers would close a gap to 1, Pacers would go back up 4. It was just one of those nights where everybody was making every shot that you could have easily seen the Sixers losing last night and be like, yeah, it's okay. It's what happened. They're on this 5-game road trip, and now they're 3-1. I think I said last week that I hope they went 2-3 on this road trip. They're already 3-1. They got a chance tonight in Minnesota to go to 4-1 on this road trip, and it's great. But let's not overreact. I know everybody wants to talk about Jalen McDaniels. Now, let me tell you something. I do not want to take a thing away from what he did last night, starting in place of Tobias Harris or PJ Tucker, whoever you say. He started last night since both those guys were out, and he played 30 minutes, and he put up 20 points, 8 rebounds. He had a steal. He was a +6 on the plus-minus board. He played great last night. But a lot of his buckets were uncontested. A lot of his buckets were just due to the fact that you're watching like an all-star game performance level of defense, of effort from both teams. Honestly, both teams played poorly defensively. So before we jump all over the Jalen McDaniels, and I know everybody wants to do it. I know Scotty wants to do it. I know I want to do it. Everybody wants to jump all over this Jalen McDaniels kid as being the real deal. You can see some glimmers. He's got some good basketball IQ. He's got the athleticism that we've lacked on this team for so long. He's got all these things. But the bench Tobias Harris to start Jalen McDaniels talk, it might happen. There's a chance that Doc sees what happened last night and goes that route. But let's slow that roll a little bit there. We're talking a defenseless game. We're talking a game where everybody was making every shot. Jalen McDaniels, I know I said 20 points, but he shot 8 of 13 from the field, 4 for 4 from the free throw line, 0 of 2 from 3. He's not going to shoot 8 of 13. He's not going to get 13 shots in a game. And I'm not saying that's a problem or anything, but if you're going to bench Tobias Harris takes 10, 15, sometimes 18 shots a game. You need a guy starting that can take those shots. Now, if you want to talk about last night was enough to bench PJ Tucker and have him come off the bench and run McDaniels and Tobias out there as your 3-4, maybe. But even that's still an overreaction. I mean, McDaniels has played nicely since he's come to Philly. I'm going to pull up his personal stats here, his game logs here since he's come to Philly. He's played 18 minutes, 16, 28, 13, 15. 6 shots was the most shots he took in a game with the Sixers before last night. He only scored 8 points twice before last night. The rest 6. He gets his rebounds. I get that. He commits some fouls. He's a nice young player. But last night was probably an aberration on what he is. And that's all I'm trying to say. I want to love Jalen McDaniels just like the next. And I've been pining. I've been wanting that athleticism. I've talked about the Toronto Raptors 100 times. They've got like 19 guys that are 6'8", 6'9", can run the floor, play defense, get up and get a dunk, get their own shot. We need somebody like that. And Jalen McDaniels has that potential. But one game against a team that played 0 defense, when every bucket for every single player, outside James Harden had a terrible shooting night last night, considering how every basket was going down. James Harden had a terrible shooting night last night. But every other person was knocking down every single shot. I mean, hell, almost had 2 half-court shots at the end of quarters. One was waved off and one wasn't. Everything was going in last night for both teams. So let's pump the brakes on Jalen McDaniels. I think last night proved that he needs to be part of the rotation now and come the playoffs. I think he proved that him getting 18 to 20 minutes a game regularly is definitely okay. But to think that he is a better starting option than Tobias Harris, for sure, that's pushing it a little bit. Having his athleticism in the lineup next to Joel and James when they're doing their thing, yeah, that helps. He cuts, he moves, he slashes, he does all that. But I'm not ready to anoint him the next starter on this team just yet. Unless it's for PJ Tucker. Again, let me forewarn this. Unless it's PJ Tucker. Again, I know everybody says PJ Tucker will pay his due when it's playoff time. We'll see. I'm still not 100% on that. I just think he's old now. That's just me. But Jalen McDaniels did show something last night. But again, to think that he's going to have that kind of performance night in and night out, that's pushing it a little bit. I think he proved that if you want to give Joel Embiid a day off, that you could run some small ball lineups out there with him over these final 17, 18 games that we've got. Sure. Can you give him 25 minutes a game occasionally in the final stretch of the season? Probably. But I just want to temper people's expectations with Jalen McDaniels. I'm going to use that as a segue. I'm going to call out my boy Scotty and Dylan. You know, they do on DSM Media. Again, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. If you do, you know when DSM Media is live. We do pregame shows for all the teams before, only on YouTube. And I turn in. I always show support to my team, you know, DSM team. I tuned in for 2 minutes yesterday when they were doing Sixers pregame show. I got notifications turned on. I know when the live goes. And I turn it on, and what are they doing? They're calling me out. They're bashing me because I was overreacting. I said, as the mush during Saturday night's game, bench Joel and James Harden, and let's just rest them for the rest of the game because that game was out of hand. And then James Harden, Joel Embiid go off in the fourth quarter, dominate, come back and win that game. They were calling me out because I was overreacting. Yeah, I was having a little fun. I was overreacting, sure. But anybody that, and I'm sure Scotty and Dylan will do pregame show today, and they're going to be all over Jalen McDaniels. Jalen McDaniels this, Jalen McDaniels that. Pump the brakes, guys. If I'm not allowed to overreact, neither are you. If we're not allowed to get too high or low on this team, you can't get too high or low on a player after one game, guys. That's all I'm saying. One game. If you want to give it a test run, you gave the Tyrese Maxey bench roll a test run, what, like 7, 8 games? It obviously didn't work. He's back in the starting lineup where he belongs. We'll get into him first in a second. If you want to give Jalen McDaniels a test run as a starter, sure. Don't do it at the expense of Tobias Harris, though, because I'm not so sure Tobias Harris coming off the bench is the right move. You still need somebody else that can score. When James and Joel are struggling, when that duo is getting locked down, and Jalen McDaniels is not going to put up 20 points. He ain't going to put up 10 points most nights. So let's not get too overreactory, too underreact here. You know, it's something that I was pondering last night during the game, and you know how this team had to test out whether Maxey should go to the bench. Now we've got to test out whether Jalen McDaniels should start or not. And we're the number 3 seed, and the Celtics lost again last night. So we're only 2 games back of the Celtics in the 2 seed. We're 4 games back of the Bucks, who are now in that 1 spot. Got another win streak started. And I was thinking, I mean, we're this close. You know, we might get that 2 seed, honestly. We still have an outside shot at being the 1 seed, whatever. I'm not worried so much about the seeding. Watch out for the Cavs. The Cavs are red hot, too, in that 4 seed. I mean, if balls bounce a different way, we could be sitting in the 4 seed before the playoffs start. But it got me thinking, like, we have these title expectations. We are one of the best teams in basketball, not named the Celtics, which they're struggling right now. So that's kind of contradictory. I know that. But how many teams in the history of the NBA with these types of expectations, with this talented of team, at this point, we are literally 60-plus games into an 82-game season. And we're still testing out rotations. We're still testing out who should be in the starting 5 next to Joel and James. I don't think I've ever seen a football team, a baseball team, a basketball team. It'd be similar to, like, you know, in September, we still don't know who our closer is. You know, if you had a set closer. In football, who's the starting, you know, who's playing quarterback, like going game to game with your quarterback, but you have such a great defense that you're winning games. I don't know. Like, I cannot think of a moment in sports in Philadelphia or nationally where there's this much uncertainty around a team that is that damn good. Because let's be honest, they are a damn good team. And yes, I overreact sometimes on the bad games, and other people overreact on the good games. Whatever. It's all good. It's what we do. We overreact. That's what doing a show every day is. You have to overreact a little bit. But man, for a team that I think I saw the other day, they're the third favorite. Fourth, I think they were like 60-1. They were the third to come out of the Eastern Conference. The Celtics and the Bucks were like 8-1, 6-1, something like that. The Sixers were like 60-1, but third to come out of the Eastern Conference. But they are the third best team on paper in the Eastern Conference. Yet they still have so much uncertainty in who's starting and who's in their rotation. Look at the last 2 nights, last 3 nights. Daniel. It's not Daniel. I learned last night because I don't think I've been paying attention close enough when he's played this year. I did not realize it was Daniel House Jr. And every time that Ala or Kate Scott said his name last night, it felt like they were purposely saying his first name versus his last name, just so they could say Daniel House Jr. Yeah, it kind of. I love Scott and Abnabi. I think they do a much better job than people give them credit for. But that's worse than the bang bang George Niang. But all of a sudden, it's Daniel House has worked his way back in the rotation. Last night, again, you're not going to get this from him every night. 4 or 5 shooting, 2 for 3 from deep, 4 assists, a rebound, 10 points, a +1. Played 18 minutes. He's just played himself back into the rotation. With 61 games into the season, we still shouldn't be testing this out. Should we? Or is Joel Embiid and James Harden so damn good that it gives you the cushion to still be tinkering at this point of the season? It is March. Where's my phone? I don't even know what today's date is. It says it on my laptop somewhere. It's March 7th. And we still don't know. We still don't know who, what, where the minutes are going to go. George Niang's kind of gotten out of his slump. But, he had a DMP the other night to help him break the slump. That was 2 games ago. So that's where House. So House has now been in for 3 games back in the rotation. And he played well. And now, again, just like let's not overreact to Jalen McDaniels. Let's not overreact to Daniel House. Because, again, Daniel House isn't going to shoot 4 or 5 every night out there. But if he could put out hustle, energy, it looks like if you really pay close attention, I've noticed it more this current 3-game run than earlier in the season before he got benched. It doesn't look like he does anything easily. Like, even a simple layup seems like he has to exert so much energy just to, like, a simple layup becomes this complicated play. A 3. He made one of those, like, he had an open shot, but then he faded away instead on it last night. It's like Daniel House has to make everything look complex. That's so simple. Whatever. It is what it is. But I think it really pondered it last night a little bit that I just couldn't get over how at this point of the season, we're still tinkering so much. And like I said, so we are 64 games in, so that's 18 games left. And we still don't know. What we do know is Joel Embiid and James Harden, one of the best duos in basketball, one of the best duos in ages in basketball. We do know Tyrese Maxey is a starter. He was lights out, especially in the first half last night, 24 points. He shot 6 of 9 from deep last night, did his thing, 37 minutes. Harden was the one that couldn't shoot last night, 3 of 11, 1 of 6 from deep. But he doesn't matter when he puts 20 assists, 9 rebounds on the board, 14 points. I mean, that is what we do know. What we don't know is D'Anthony Melton. D'Anthony Melton got in foul trouble last night, so he didn't play quite as much. So maybe Shake Milton doesn't play 30 minutes if D'Anthony Melton. Going back this morning and reading some of my tweets I was tweeting out live game, I don't know if anybody noticed it last night. Multiple times, especially in the fourth quarter, Doc Rivers was running the Villanova Jay Wright 4-guard ball lineup. Pacers were all of a sudden decided to play defense, so they're pressing, so they put 4 ball handlers. If you didn't notice it, there were multiple times last night. I tweeted it out with about 4 minutes left, and then they pulled, I think it was Shake out for Jalen McDaniels, and then with 2 minutes left, he pulled McDaniels and put Shake back in. But he ran a lineup with Joel Embiid at center, James Harden, D'Anthony Melton, Shake Milton, and Tyrese Maxey. 4 guards with Joel Embiid. And it wasn't awful. It's just, I guess a team like the Pacers that they don't have a huge player. They got a lot of guys that are a little on the smaller side that you could do that. I mean, they were running TJ McConnell out there late in the game, so you can go small. I was like, whoa. what is Doc Rivers doing with this lineup? But yeah, the Melton situation, we still have to learn who D'Anthony Melton is. Is Shake Milton going to get 8 minutes a game down the stretch and in the playoffs, or is he going to get 20 minutes a game? Because when Shake's on, Shake's a viable option off the bench. Daniel House, George Niang, Tucker. So you look at it, last night's minute allocation, and then you throw Tucker and Harris back into it. Where do their minutes come from? Obviously, Shake Milton's not going to play 30 minutes, but that's not enough for both those guys. Jalen McDaniels isn't going to play 30 minutes, so you get 10 minutes maybe less from him to give. So maybe there's room for Tucker to get to 15. Tobias Harris, he's going to get his minutes. Maybe all of a sudden this team's a little deeper than we think. I don't know. But the fact that we're still tinkering and playing around. Paul Reed, another guy, with his rotation and his minutes. I compared it on Twitter last night to Bryson Stott with the Phillies, for the Phillies fans out there. When Joe Girardi was in as our manager last year, the first portion of the year, if Bryson Stott went 0 for 4 in a game, the next day, he's sitting the bench. Next 3 days, he's sitting the bench. But then Rob Thompson takes over as manager and says, Bryson Stott, this is your role. You're going to play every day at shortstop. Now, this year's second base, but every day. And if you have a bad day, it's not going to affect. We're going to work you through it. Paul Reed has had a lot of highs and lows on the court this year and last year here in Philly. But all of a sudden, Doc Rivers has committed 9, 10, last night 11 minutes. That approximately 10 minutes. You are the backup center. You are going to get the backup minutes first behind Joel Embiid every single night. Go out there. You're going to get 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Go full force. Go all out. Don't worry if you have a bad game, which he had one 2 or 3 games ago. He had a bad game. He was still back out there the next night. And that's being given that confidence that, hey, I could do my thing. I could get better on the court. And, if I make a mistake, it's not going to be the end of the world for me. I'm not going to turn into Furkan Korkmaz and not see the court for 6 months because of one big mistake or something like that. That is actually helping Paul Reed play looser, freer, more his style basketball in his 10 minutes. And the last couple games, he's played really well last night. 4 of 4. He had 8 points, 4 rebounds, an assist, a steal, 3 blocks. He was a +8 off the bench. A +8 in 11 minutes, that's quality. If you can get a stat line, you're not going to get 4 of 4 from Paul Reed all the time. I think he even made a jump shot last night, Paul Reed. You're not going to get that, but if you get the 4 rebounds, the steal, the 3 blocks, the +8, every 10, 11 minutes that he's out there, that's great. And it comes because he's being given the confidence so he can play loose and free. And that's what you want. You're going to need, even we know Doc Rivers doesn't tighten his rotations like other teams do in the playoffs, but Joel Embiid's going to play a lot in the playoffs, obviously. But you still need a backup center. You might not need 3 backup guards, but you need 1 backup center because Joel Embiid can't play 48 minutes. So Paul Reed building that confidence now is huge come playoff time because you're still going to need it. And at some point here, maybe tonight, if Tobias Harris and PJ Tucker are back tonight, don't be surprised if Joel Embiid sits tonight. Don't be surprised if James Harden's been playing 39, 40, 41 minutes a game for a pretty long stretch this year, a lot of times. James Harden's going to need a blow or two. You got tonight's game in Minnesota, then you've got Wednesday and Thursday off. You get one or even both of them. Man, could you rest both? Might as well just rest both the same night. I mean, Minnesota's not a great team. You go out there tonight, you rest both those guys. They get 3 days off in a row. Something to think about. And then you're back home, back in your own bed. You can run out a starting lineup tonight of Josh McDaniels and Paul Reed and Melton and Maxey and Tobias Harris. That's a weird lineup. Whatever. I don't know. I'm just speculating there. There's no even guarantee that Tucker or Harris are back tonight. The point is, down the stretch, if you can keep building over the next 2 or 3 games, this Paul Reed, confidence level, come the last 5, 10 games of the year when you're giving Joel Embiid maybe a couple more days off, you've got a guy that can fill in there. Joel Embiid gets into foul trouble in the playoffs. Just say. You got a guy that can step in. But it's all about building the confidence. I'm not looking at last night's scorer. I'm not looking at the shooting percentage. how many points each player scored, because that is an overreactionary way of looking at last night's game. Because there was no defense and nobody was missing a shot outside of James Harden missing a couple threes. But what you're doing is you can look at, can these guys be building confidence off this game? Can Doc Rivers be building confidence in these guys? And I think that's what's important to be doing and looking at, these guys getting and gaining confidence in themselves and also in each other's teammates. Because I really do think, to an extent, there is a portion of the Joel Embiid and James Harden duo that lacks confidence in Danuel House, in Josh McDaniels. Again, it's the first time I've done it today, I think. It's Jalen McDaniels. I said it yesterday. I can't stop calling him Josh McDaniels. I'm going to have to turn him into he's my new Bailey Falter. I used to call Bailey Falter Bradley Falter. It's Jalen McDaniels. Get that in my head there. He's gaining, maybe he doesn't have confidence. He doesn't have confidence all the time, those two, in Tobias Harris and PJ Tucker. The only person they really have confidence in that duo is Tyrese Maxey, to an extent. And maybe George Niang even, because I think they know what they got there in George Niang. But it's time, maybe, confidence in themselves and confidence in each other, confidence as a team. And last night was that. It was a night to grow the confidence together, if that makes sense to you guys. Because I think it makes sense to me. I will say, I don't want to take anything away from the Pacers and what they did. I'm a Carl fan. I think he's a hell of a coach. He's got a good young team there in Indy. Miles, Turner's still what he is. He fouled out last night. It's a tough matchup for him against Joel, but you got Halliburton healed. I mean, two young pieces there that could just score at will. Tyrese Halliburton, I wish there was a way to have gotten him on the Sixers. He was my guy. I wanted him so bad. TJ McConnell still does TJ McConnell things. Watching the Pacers when we play them, it breaks my heart every time. Because I got to watch TJ McConnell in a Pacers uniform. And then I got to watch Tyrese Halliburton also in a Pacers uniform at the same time. Breaks my heart. But you got Dorate. You got a good team. You got Smith there forward. He played really well last night, 14 points for them. They got a good young team. I'm looking at the NBA standings now, and they fell to 2 games out of the play-in series. They're 2 games behind Washington for that 10th spot in the play-in series. Making that playoff series and having a playoff atmosphere would be huge for that Pacers team. Get them some of that playoff experience. But, it is what it is. I'm not really worried about them. I think as a basketball fan, I'm just looking at the potential, another year or two of them. You add another piece, or two there. Get maybe Smith some more experience. Get these guys just more experience overall. Watch out. The Pacers are going to be a scary team in a year or two. They really are. They have a chance to be where the Cavs are now in 2 years. I just think they're that close. We'll see if how everything plays out there, but they're getting there. They are. But anyway, yeah, the Sixers play Minnesota tonight. I want to take a look at that real quick. I just got to pull up my Sixers thing here real quick so I can get on the Sixers schedule so I can see the matchup. Timberwolves 7:30 tonight. Minnesota. They're 34-32. They're in the playoffs, not there yet. Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert. I don't know whatever happened to Cat, man. Cat's been out for a while now. I didn't think he was going to miss this much time. Anthony Edwards is one of those young guys that everybody wanted in the Ben Simmons sweepstakes. He's a really damn good player. Scores at will. It'll be interesting to see who's guarding him tonight. Whether James Harden's guarding him, Tyrese Maxey. Probably be a lot of DeAnthony Melton on Anthony Edwards. Rudy Gobert kind of has fallen off since leaving, since joining Minnesota. He just isn't quite as effective. Still a really good defensive player, but just not what he used to be. I don't know if it's just the match there in Minnesota. Somehow Minnesota is a 1-point favorite right now. I wish I knew who was playing, who wasn't playing tonight for the Sixers. That 1-point line, Minnesota being a 1-point favorite. I know it's a back-to-back, Indy to Minnesota. It's not that long of a flight last night. I almost want to say, to me, that's me being told by the bookies that they don't expect some guys to play tonight for the Sixers. on that back-to-back. Because if we have Joel Embiid and James Harden in tonight, even though it's a back-to-back, I can't see the team that played last night in Indiana losing to this Minnesota team tonight. That's just me. But we'll see. I think that line tells you a little bit about what's going to happen. And again, like I said, do not be surprised if some guys don't play tonight. And that line, like I said, it tells me that. It really does. We'll have to monitor it. We won't know. It's a 7:30 tip. We won't know till 6:15, 6:30 when Keith Pompey always announces who's playing and who isn't. That's me, what that is. I want to go through real quick. I want to double check here for a second. I like to do this here. I want to do this more often when I live tweet during a game. I want to look at some of my tweets and revisit what I said. And obviously, I talked about a few of them already. I tweeted out, is this Jay Wright in the Villanova or Sixers, game? 4 guards and Joel Embiid. Yeah, I was still blown away by that. There was that moment late in the game where Joel Embiid fell to the ground after being hit, and I tweeted out, if Turner just broke Embiid's face, we riot. Dude, let me tell you something. When Turner came down on Embiid, Embiid grabbed his face and then fell over it felt like 30 seconds later. I was like, oh, shit. He just clipped the side of his face, same side maybe that he broke before. I'm like, here we go again. But he was fine. He was right back up on there. He was fine last night. I tweeted out, I'm not sure I like it, but there's a strong chance Tobias goes to the bench. I'd rather Tucker, 18 games to find the right starting 5. I think that's pretty much what we've just talked about for the first 30 minutes here, that I don't like the Tobias to the bench. Doc Rivers is a creature of habit. He's a stubborn veteran coach. I don't think he'll bench Tobias or PJ Tucker for McDaniels. I wouldn't mind if he tried it for a 2 or 3 game stretch, but I wouldn't let it be a thing that he lets run on for 7 or 8 games. If my money's on anything, if I'm thinking in Doc Rivers' head, not what I would do, what I think Doc Rivers would do, I think he's more likely to bench Tobias than PJ Tucker. I think it should be the opposite way. But just from what I understand and gather of Doc Rivers, I would see it going the other way. We'll see. We won't know until everybody's healthy again what he does. But it'll be interesting to see. I've already talked about Paul Reed comparing him to Bryson Stott. And, of course, 76ers need to score 175 to win the game. Yeah, the offense last night, Sixers scored 38 points in the first quarter, and we're losing after 1 quarter. It's insane. Halliburton is someone I wanted on the Sixers, I tweeted out. Man, would we be better? I think I commented on this a few weeks ago. Would we have been better if we took one of the rumored deals with the Kings? If we got Halliburton and, say, Buddy Hield, or Halliburton and Harrison Barnes for Ben Simmons instead of James Harden, we might have some more first-round picks. We wouldn't have James Harden. We might not be as good as we are, but our bigger picture, bold picture might be better over the next 3 years because we'd have more youth versus James Harden being 34. I don't think we'd be better this year, but I think the future of the team would have been brighter if one of those moves would have happened instead. And Tyrese Maxey, my first tweet of the game last night was, Tyrese Maxey is cooking tonight. He is sparked back into all-star form. Proves the bench role was definitely wrong for him. And I think that's the final thing I'll say about last night is Tyrese Maxey is back. He's confident, quick release on the three-point shot, getting to the rim again. Now, again, last night it was easy to get to the rim because nobody was playing defense. Last night it was easy to make a shot because the rims were wider than you could have shot me up at that rim and I would have fallen through. Nobody outside James Harden was missing threes last night on either team. I don't have the box score up anymore because I moved to the other screen there. But anyway, you get what the picture is. Tyrese Maxey is a starter. Tyrese Maxey should stay as a starter. And when you've got your full complement of players, Melton needs to be the guy on the bench. He's just not consistent enough offensively. I know he brings something defensively, but what he brings defensively versus what Maxey brings offensively, I'll take Maxey's offense over Melton's defense in my starting lineup any day. And if you start putting McDaniels in the starting lineup, if that happens, that overreaction happens, then you make up the defense there. Just my thoughts. Just my thoughts right there. Anyway, I can't say whether the Sixers will win tonight in Minnesota or not because I don't know who's going to play. If Tobias and Tucker sit and James and Joel play tonight, it's a win. If Tucker and Tobias play, but Embiid or Harden sit, They still probably win if some combination. Look, in my mind, as long as you got some combination, you're starting 5 going tonight, and they've got the confidence that they do from last night's game, I wouldn't expect a 140-point offense outburst from this team tonight. But realistically speaking, this team should win again tonight. But we got to wait and see who plays, what the starting lineup is, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, 1-point favorite for Minnesota Timberwolves tonight tells me that somebody's sitting tonight. Somebody of the big core is sitting tonight. So we'll have to wait and see. Let's see if that line fluctuates at all throughout the day as well. That's why you follow me on Twitter. I always tweet out that kind of stuff, at Bearded Knowledge right there. We're going to take a quick pause here. We're going to reset. Again, if you're watching this on replay or now live, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Drop your comments. We're going to transition from Sixers to the Eagles and the NFL free agency. I was going to talk about the story, the Marcus Hayes story, about, Denard Wilson, the cornerbacks coach that got passed over, and him being agreeing to stay, then mutually agreeing to leave. Maybe he was actually fired. There's some drama brewing. There's some drama in this Eagles organization, I should say. Winning cures everything. We went to the Super Bowl last year, so we were winning, so no drama came to the forefront. But I think we've got some egos in this locker room. I'm just going to look, Jalen Hurts is the epitome ultimate leader, and I hope and I think that he'll be able to keep the lid on a majority of stuff throughout his career. But I'm going to briefly say there is egos in this Eagles organization right now. Obviously, Howie Roseman's got an ego. He wants to make the final decision. Obviously, Nick Sirianni has got a very bold, brass personality. You got A.J. Brown and him. You got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, hopefully. We're going to talk free agency here in a second. There's some personalities. And if the going gets tough, will Jalen Hurts be able to keep the reins tight on this team, this organization, this family, whatever you want to call it? Because when the going gets tough, the drama tends to come to the forefront. Fingers get pointed. Names get dropped. We saw it with the Alshon Jeffrey stuff in the past. We saw it with Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman in that battle for power. All that stuff circulating around. But, until more comes out, until more drama happens, I'm just going to let it be. I'm going to let it simmer. I'm going to let it percolate in the background there. Because we got other things happening. Do we talk quarterbacks first, or do we talk Derrick Henry? Let's talk quarterbacks first. Last night, whatever it was, yesterday afternoon, news breaks that Derek Carr is getting a 4-year, $140 million deal to be the Saints starting quarterback. Then after that, Geno Smith, comeback player. I don't know what he came back from. He came back from sucking. So he should have been the most improved player. Changed the award title. Gets a 3-year, $105 million deal for Geno Smith. So $140 million for Derek Carr and $105 million for Geno. Both over $30 million a year deals. About $35 million each a year. And you got this little guy named Jalen Hurts that's looking for his extension. And we could throw Lamar Jackson into this conversation as well. You got the two big names sitting there ready for their big deals. And I don't know what's going on in Baltimore. I mean, I see from a distance the rumors and whatnot that Lamar and his agent can't get on the same page with the Ravens organization on a contract. He turned down $250 last offseason. Didn't have a great season, was hurt this year. And yet they can't get on the same page. If Derek Carr got $140 million, Lamar Jackson better be still getting at least $250. Maybe $260, $270. Didn't Deshaun Watson get $250 too? So Lamar Jackson's right there at that number. If Derek Carr got $140 million, if Geno Smith got $35 million a year, if I'm Jalen Hurts and his agent, I'm telling Howie Roseman, it starts at 50. I was talking about this on Twitter yesterday, and someone's like, well, Jalen Hurts needs to take a discount for his career so that the team can be better around him. Dude, I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again. I don't buy this. You got to take a discount to help the team out. You don't know how many times you got to get an opportunity to get paid in the NFL. You take it, you get paid. That's what the GM's job is, to find a way around it. You look at the teams that have played in the Super Bowl lately. Patrick Mahomes, 2 of the last 3. Big deal. This year he played on the big deal. The last time he was in the Super Bowl was still on his rookie deal. You could still build a winning team around a high-priced quarterback. I don't want to say that it's easy, but I'm not taking it. If I'm Jalen Hurts, I'm not taking a discount. I'm maxing my value. If I'm Jalen Hurts, the contract that I want right now is 6 years, $300 million. That keeps him locked in Philly till he's 30 years old, approximately. It's not like it's taking him into his 38-year-old, season or something like that. He's still so young, 30, 31, something like that. $300 million. That's $50 million a year. To me, that's a steal. The salary cap's going to continue to rise every year, and it'll be higher next year when the bigger salary kicks in. So whatever it is this year, 240 or whatever. Next year it's going to be more. And 3 years from now, when the next crop of quarterbacks come up for their big deals, $50 million is going to seem like pennies. When the salary cap's up to 260, 270, be fine. I don't worry about that. I don't worry about. Someone said to me, "Well, Tom Brady was never the highest paid quarterback because he'd rather take." Tom Brady made a lot of money in his career, and I'm not saying that he took a discount, but I'm sure there are plenty of perks in that deal that made it worth it for him. And if Jalen Hurts, instead of taking 50, wants to take $48 million a year, that's fine. But if anybody says, and I know there's people out there talking it, that Jalen Hurts should take 6 years, $35 million a year, you're insane. There is zero, absolutely zero chance that he should or would or will take that kind of a discount. He's not going to make the same kind of money next year or 2 years as Geno Smith. No way. And you're doing yourself a disservice because you're setting yourself up for disappointment. If that's what you really think is going to happen. If you really think Jalen Hurts is going to take that big of a discount, then you're crazy. And you're going to be so mad. And I always go back and check, my Facebook memories from, in the morning and, doing this show. I always see what we talked about this week or this day, last year or the year before that. And this week's show last year had in it, in Howie We Trust, with a question mark within the words, do we have to put the question mark? I was starting to feel confident and turn my page on Howie last year. I know I was an anti-Howie guy years ago when I first got started in this. But I've grown, I've flip-flopped, I've matured my opinions. I have the utmost confidence. I know we've got all these free agents that we have to fill these holes with. I know we've got all these issues with this team and building a roster. But the core offensive line, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, they're locked up. So our offense is still going to be elite. I've got confidence that Howie Roseman will make the right decisions, let the right guys go, bring the right guys in. Derrick Henry is a no. We'll get to that in a second. And when and if, whatever this Jalen Hurts contract is, he'll find a way to navigate it. Howie Roseman's navigated a complete blow-up after winning a Super Bowl and turned it around to another Super Bowl. Not win, but at least we got there. Jalen Hurts is not taking a discount. And like I said, first off, New Orleans. I see people tweeting out, I think it was ESPN or NFL News, talking about New Orleans and their scary offense because they've got Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas and Taysom Hill. Chris Olave is the only talent they've got on that offense. First and foremost, Taysom Hill is a gadget guy, and with a real quarterback like Derek Carr, you're going to see less and less Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is going to get traded to Denver probably to be the backup to Russell Wilson and Sean Payton and that whole thing there. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. That was a joke, but Michael Thomas hasn't played football in like 2 years. Alvin Kamara, is he going to go to jail or not? I don't even know that whole situation, what's going on there. Plus, when he was playing last year, he wasn't the same effective self. I'm actually a Derek Carr fan. I think Derek Carr is Derek Carr is a completely underrated quarterback. He's not elite. He's not in the top 8 or 9. But he's in that 10 to 12 to 14 range of quarterback. You could do much worse. Jameis Winston, who they had last year in the Saints, much worse than Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a great a really good quarterback, a really good leader, a really good teammate from everything that I've seen. But, man, going from Devontae Adams to Michael Thomas, man, you think it was bad last year. This year's going to be worse. That team's not going to be much better. Now, the NFC South is a bad division. So maybe they win that division still. They almost won it this year at what, like 7-10 or whatever they were. But don't tell me that the national media site saying that that's a scary offense. Get that out of here. You're talking about it because of things past, not current. Okay. The Geno Smith to the Seahawks deal, 3-year, $105 million. I think he gets like $55 million in it, if I remember reading it correctly, up front this year. So it's really just a 1-year deal. Probably once I see the details, I'll know more. It's probably a 1-year deal with a lot of money up front. He's going to make more money this year. I think I saw 4 times more money this upcoming season than he's made his entire career. And I saw an interesting thing. He sat behind Manning. Actually, I think I saw both Mannings and Russell Wilson. He was get drafted by the Jets, bombed with the Jets, then went and sat behind 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and now turned his career around. Something that Carson Wentz should probably do, right? Go sit behind some Hall of Fame quarterback somewhere, revamp, relearn everything, and maybe he'll be – I doubt it. But anyway, I give Geno Smith so much credit for being willing to take that back seat, refresh, relearn, figure things out, come out the other side as a 32-year-old mature quarterback and get a big payday. But really, like I said, it's probably a 1-year deal with a lot of options on it. The Seahawks will probably draft a quarterback, and Geno's going to be that transition, that bridge quarterback to the next guy. He's not the long-term answer at 32 in Seattle. But Seattle's still a good team. They're well coached. Pete Carroll, really good coach. They always find a way to put a good defense on the court. What's up, my man? How you doing? Thanks for checking in on Twitch. Again, the only person that watches this show on Twitch. Appreciate it. I don't know if anybody else watches it, but I don't know. But again, Seattle, I like the Geno Smith to Seattle deal more than the Saints deal just because you know what you're getting in Seattle. New Orleans are still such a train wreck of a team, and all their skilled players and all their stars are so at the back, outside of Chris Olave, at the back end of their career. So I don't know what's going on there. But again, anybody that says that Jalen Hurts needs to take a contract like that to help the Eagles, get out of here. Don't give it to me. But also, don't be surprised if the Jalen Hurts contract stuff drags out a little bit longer. Everybody wants to be the highest paid quarterback. Till they're not, till the next year. Next year, I think Burrow will be up for a deal extension next year. Probably Herbert and Burrow. So Jalen will sign his this year. Next year they'll beat his contract. But you got the Lamar situation too, and whether the Ravens franchise tag him, I think they've got till today or tomorrow to franchise tag him. If they find a way to negotiate, Jalen Hurts wants his contract to be more than Lamar Jackson, so he might hold out. It might drag on a little bit longer to see what happens with Lamar Jackson, unless he gets franchise tagged, and then we see from there. But again, if I'm Jalen Hurts, if I'm his agent, I'm going to Howie. I'm like, look, this is a discount for you. I want 6 years, $300 million. Guarantee as much as possible. Figure out the salary cap, stretch it out over whatever. That's what I want. That's my starting point. My starting point actually might be more than that. 6 years, $360 million, and then they negotiate it down to $300 million. I don't know. But that'll be, in 2 years, that'll be a steal of a contract. I trust me, Joe Burrow, next year when he's eligible for his extension, is going to get $400 million. So you got to figure all that into it. He might be a $600 million quarterback for all I know Joe Burrow. But they all want to be the highest paid guy, so don't be surprised. But he is not taking a discount. The other thing, NFL free agency starts on Wednesday of next week. A lot of guys are getting cut to save their team cap money. A lot of guys are being put on the trade market. Every single name that you've heard of before because you play fantasy football. Every single name you've heard of before because they've been in the league for 12 years. Every single name you've seen because the Eagles were linked to them 10 years ago, but now they're being cut. Does not mean when you see that player's been cut or is on the trade block. You don't have to quote tweet and say, "Ooh, Howie, get this guy to Philly." And I say that because of yesterday, Derrick Henry. The rumor started floating that Derrick Henry is available on the trade block. King Henry. He's 29 years old. He's a running back. He makes $10 million. Now, I don't know how it would affect the cap in a trade. I know he's a $16 million cap hit for the Titans this upcoming season. He's making $10 million in salary, but the cap hit's 16. Now, if the Eagles trade for him, I know they'd be on the hook for the $10 million. I don't know if it'd be $10 million against the cap or 16. I'm not sure. I'm no cap expert. The one thing you always get with me, I'll tell you, I'm not an expert at this or that. I'm just the guy that wants to have the conversation with you. But all the people out there saying, "Oh, we got to make Howie make a trade to get King Derrick Henry to Philadelphia to run with Jalen Hurts." No. Is this mic on? No. He's older, got a lot of tread on the tires. He's not the type of running back you want in this system. It'd be like the DeMarco Murray situation again. Derrick Henry is not a read option running back. He is a sit behind an I formation no shotgun quarterback. He's a quarterback under center. You hand it off and let him run through everybody. Now, we have the offensive line for it, sure. But if you're worried about the Eagles spending $7 million a year on Miles Sanders, which, again, I doubt they do, or you think the Eagles are going to invest in Bijan Robinson with the first-round pick, which they're not going to do. Howie Roseman's never paid a running back big money. The last time we had a big money running back here, it was DeMarco Murray, and that was Chip Kelly making that decision, not Howie Roseman. And it backfired. You're not bringing Derrick Henry here. It would be a massive mistake. Now, I know he went to Alabama. Jalen Hurts went to Alabama. A.J. Brown was a Titan and buddies with Derrick Henry. There's a connection there. You know, there's lots of, you can always find links and connections on every team with every free agent. Just because you found some with Derrick Henry doesn't make him a good option for the Eagles. We are up against a wall with cap this year, with money to spend. And you want to waste $10 million of it on a running back? We still got the whole Chauncey Gardner-Johnson situation. I really thought that they'd find a way to lock him up, extend him now. But it still hasn't happened. The longer this drags on, I'm concerned. We might lose him. Rumors yesterday floating around, Marcus Epps has got a lot of teams interested in him. You might lose both safeties. There's going to be a lot of pieces moving. More rumors that maybe Howie's going to try to find a way to trade Darius Slay if he can't work out a restructure. The fact that rumor was if he can't work out the restructure tells me that the rumors are coming out that they are already working on the restructure for Darius Slay. But, guys, Derrick Henry, you've got only so much to spend. Just say he clears up enough cap space and gets us to $20 million in cap room this offseason. You're going to spend half of it on Derrick Henry? Why? Why would you do that? You already have a pretty strong offense. Kenneth Gainwell, somebody else, a veteran running back, much cheaper. Bring back Boston Scott, maybe draft a running back in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Hell, Trey Sermon's only, 24, 25 years old. You had him here. He knows this system. He could be that power goal line back. Maybe that's the running back room next year. Sermon, Gainwell, and Scott. But if you're going to tell me you're going to invest half your cap room in Derrick Henry to make the offense a little bit better, maybe not any better than it was last year, but sacrifice defense for that, Howie Roseman won't do it. You got to remember, it's not what you want as a fan. You've got to think about the draft, free agency, all these moves, not as what you want, because you're not the one making the moves. What does Howie do? Howie Roseman's not in his 2nd year as a GM of a football team. Howie Roseman has a track record. He has a very long, storied track record here. We know he's changed a little bit. He's changed his draft philosophy a little bit in the extent of where he looks. He doesn't reach as much the last few years. But he still drafts the same positions in the same rounds. He still has a value on every position, draft and free agent-wise, and where he invests his money. And that tells you everything right there. Where he puts his value. He values the trenches, the offense and defensive line, and wide receiver in the draft, in the first round of the draft. He values, linebackers in that third, fourth round, Davian Taylor, Nakobe Dean. He looks for projects in the seventh round, Jordan Davis, some others that haven't worked out. He targets safeties and linebackers and free agents to patch it together. This is what Howie does. So Derrick Henry, not only is a bad fit and a bad choice for you to want in Philly, it's also not what Howie does. I would be shocked. And I would come on the show, as I always do when I am, I'd say, I was wrong. I still would say I wouldn't agree with it, but I'd be shocked beyond belief if Howie was actually in play. And I know there's a bunch of sports bet books out there have the Eagles as the second most likely landing spot of Derrick Henry. Ain't happening, guys. It's just not. It's not what Howie does. And I don't understand why. Why are people enamored with a 29-year-old running back? Somebody sent me a picture of the GIF of him stiff-arming that cornerback from like 4 years ago or 3 years ago. Dude, that's not the Derrick Henry anymore. I mean, he's still a really good player, but he's not that guy anymore. He just isn't. I was trying to look up here what else. You got another piece of news that came out in the NFL yesterday was Calvin Ridley was reinstated from his gambling suspension. I just want to touch on that really quickly because I was very, very in favor, or I understood the suspension. And you know what? You're told day one as a rookie in all sports, you do not gamble while you're an athlete on your sport, your team, your sport, anything in your sport. And I know the leagues are in bed with all these DraftKings and FanDuels and Bet360 and BetMGM, all these sites. I just gave free press to by saying their names. I know they're in bed with them all. But you know the rules. You don't bet. Look at Pete Rose. It is what it is. We're not getting to a long storied conversation about it. The fact that he got a full year and other people got lesser suspensions for what we perceive as more egregious, things, abuse, Deshaun Watson, Kareem Hunt, whoever you want to talk about. Yes, that's wrong. The punishment system in the NFL is wrong, but you're told you can't do it. But it's great that they didn't let it drag on. He was eligible for reinstatement. They reinstated him at that day. He paid his due. Dude, Jacksonville getting Calvin Ridley back. I know he hasn't played in almost 2 years now, but if he could be even 90% of what he was, he's still pretty young. That's huge. That's huge for Jacksonville. They took a chance that he was going to be reinstated. That's a huge get for them. So, and I'm just glad that the NFL didn't drag it on and said, let's think about it. Let's evaluate. No, you're eligible. We'll reinstate you. You served your time. You're done. Don't do it again. So I wanted to touch on that. There's other news here. Oh, and the Cowboys. They're franchise tagging Tony Pollard. They're going to be spending like $27 million on Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. And we're supposed to fear the Cowboys again next year? Cowboys fans. Even Cowboys fans have to look at themselves in the mirror and be like, damn it, I got to go and trash talk Eagles and Giants fans and Washington fans when my team just franchise tagged a running back when we've got another running back making $17 million next year. You got to really be questioning yourself as Cowboys fans and how you can keep putting up with it. We always are fire Doc Rivers, fire Howie Roseman, fire this guy, fire that guy, hashtag this, hashtag that. Do Dallas fans do hashtag Jerry Jones sell the team? Fire Jerry Jones? Do they? McCarthy and Jerry Jones were saying the other day that they think that Dak Prescott's still on the level of Tom Brady. Their fans buy into it all. At least Eagles fans are realistic to an extent. Yeah, they want Derrick Henry, but we know. We know when to criticize. You got to give us credit for that. There's just so much news here floating around. I see news about Joe Mixon, but I don't want to get into it because it's not even on ESPN's website yet. I don't know if that's real or fake news or who knows what's going on. Once we learn more about the Joe Mixon situation, maybe we'll address that tomorrow. That has a tendency to get into guns and some serious conversations. So we'll see if we get into that or not. But we're going to wrap up Trending in the AM. I got to go pick up my wife's car from the mechanic this morning. We're going to wrap it up right there. Make sure if you're watching now or on replay, you like, you subscribe, you turn notifications on. on all social media platforms, but specifically the DSM Media YouTube page. If you watch this on replay, drop your comments, your thoughts, your questions. I go back, I'll read them. I'll answer the ones I can. I'll be live tonight, Fairway to Heaven, back. It's the Players' Championship. Total Carnage tournament in the PGA Tour. We'll be breaking down the fantasy and gambling side of things tonight, 9 p.m. right here on DSM Media. I mean, it's a tough tournament to break down. It's a fun tournament to watch because it's just carnage every single year. Anybody can win it. So we'll talk about that tonight. I'll be back here for Trending in the AM tomorrow. We'll talk Sixers. We'll talk more Eagles. We'll talk whatever else comes out news-wise. Everybody have a great day. Like I said, make sure you like and subscribe. You follow. Shoot me a follow on Twitter at Beard and Knowledge. Everybody have a great day. This is Trending in the AM on DSM Media. Go Birds.
And Philadelphia has it.